Welcome everyone for the Uplifted podcast. And today we have a special guest. We have Matthew Frye. He's the founder of CardNow. Matthew is a fintech leader and entrepreneur with 20 years of payments and card processing technology solutions. And he successfully built an e-commerce gift card business, and he exited with a sale to Blackhawk Network in 2014. He's currently building a new business that is called CardNow, which will bring much needed innovation and efficiency to the management of physical plastic gift card and reward cards. And he's focused on where the personal nature of gifting and incentive activity means the most. Matthew had an extensive experience in myriad of financial services and payment solution across vendor, bank, and corporate roles. Matthew is a generalist. He's always seemingly gravitating to product development and executive marketing and sales roles. You know, people call Matt Frye as the Kevin Bacon of payments. And so I'm super excited to have you, Matthew, with us. So before we get into the discussion, let me just introduce what we do at Uplifters here. Uplifters is a power-packed podcast where we host successful business owners like Matt and entrepreneurs and community-focused professionals who are committed to living an extraordinary life. And together we dive into open and authentic conversations about life, business, relationship, health, struggles, obstacles, and challenges that our guests have experienced, and how do they win? How do they triumph? How do they succeed? What is the mindset that they uphold to? And together we bring insights and inspiration to motivate others and keep uplifting the community. So Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It sounds like a lot of lofty expectations for this session, but I hope I can meet you somewhere halfway at least. So
wonderful. So why don't you take a couple of minutes, tell us about yourself and about your journey, and how did you get to found CardNow?
Sure. So the last 20 plus years in payments technology, fintech, but sort of lots of roles and progressing to the point where now I'm CEO of a new venture. But prior to that, was in the restaurant business and the bar business for quite a long time, and that's where I met my wife, and progressed through lots of different roles in restaurants and bars, and ended up owning a place in Oklahoma City with some partners, and I love that business. I think a lot of stuff that I enjoy even in the fintech space, it comes from the really positive experiences in working in restaurants, and there's a lot to be said for having a group of people work together and in a short period of time really just accomplish amazing things. And some people maybe don't think that serving food is amazing, but it can be a lot. It can be really rewarding. You can accomplish a lot. So I really enjoyed that business. But to go from that to fintech, it's sort of an odd set of circumstances. But some of my friends that I worked with early on in restaurants and my college days got into a couple different payments related businesses with ATM processing and some other card processing for point of sale. And I took the leap back in the late 90s out of restaurants and into this thing that I didn't understand much about. But I knew some of the people I'd be working with, and I knew I wanted to have a change. While I just said restaurants are very rewarding, it's also very tiring. And you work tons of hours, and I was really looking to take a break. My wife didn't get to see me at all. So back in the late 90s, I joined a company called BillServe in San Antonio. And that was the beginning. I was a product manager, didn't even know what a product manager was. Just read a lot of books, and then actually went and got my MBA through the first couple of years working there. And then, since then been in payments technology business ever since.
Wow. So what has been some of your internal conversations, right? You said you didn't have background in it, and maybe some confident conversations that you had with yourself, or things that maybe would have prevented you, right? Because it's never a smooth sailing to the top. So can you share what those conversations were, and then what have you done in terms of mindset to overcome those obstacles and conversations?
Sure. I think my mindset's changed over the years. Certainly. I think that, early on, it was just sort of a relentless attitude toward, just getting better and learning and working longer than the other guy, working, hopefully smarter than the other guy, but always first in, last out. I mean, I took the same sort of energy from the restaurant business and applied it, so that I was able to learn quickly, about the business and how it operated. And I build connections. So the Kevin Bacon of payments comment, that comes from me networking all the time. And so, back in the early days, not just the people in the building that I had to work with, but anybody that was a partner or a vendor, or we go to trade shows. And I just always valued all the connections and all the sort of the great learning I can get from other people. And I think I've taken that and applied it for myself. I think that's my number one sort of superpower is connecting people. And I think that, once you realize that it's not about being the smartest person in the room, it's not about having the most power. It's more about being a good team leader or a good teammate. And, that usually means, giving way to someone else that knows more than you. And, once you sort of buy into that as the true path to being successful, then, doors start to open up. So I applied that, which got me through restaurants, in the early days to this new space that I didn't know much about, again, sitting at a desk, I mean, everything from having a badge to get in a door to, I mean, I'd never experienced any of the sort of, cubicle life. And it was rough the first year. I felt like a fish out of water. But, I think that I did see a good opportunity, that there was a place for me, I think. And it helped having some good friends around me. And I think that helped me get through that period. I think being comfortable failing is probably very important early on. And then I think being able to, focus on building networks and teams and relationships with people, because you're never going to do it all yourself. And I think that all serves you well in the long run. And I think my progression sort of speaks to that.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of humility and vulnerability and, collaborative partnership and alignment. And, that's kind of true sense of leadership. And so, a lot of people have different definition, or they define success differently. What is the way that you define success?
It's changed. I think back in those early days, I mean, it was success meant winning, and that winning could be, winning the contract, winning, hitting your numbers, whatever the goals and the objectives were, but it usually winning means somebody loses. And that's, sort of, as I've gotten a little older, and as we had a son 13 years ago, that changes your perspective on what really is important. And I think that I look at success, I think success still means hitting goals, certainly. But I feel better about, the work that I do if I can bring other people along, and if I can help other people be successful. Because I think it all comes back. It does. There's a wheel, it spins, and you don't think so, but the bad stuff comes back, and the good stuff comes back. If you're paying out, it usually gets paid back. And I'm, back to the networking thing. I will nowadays, probably to the detriment of personal wealth in some cases, connect people, maybe I want to do that, but this person would be better for it, and I'm going to introduce somebody else in, and I wouldn't have done that, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I know it's going to help me in the long run. It's going to be the better thing for me in the long run. And also I think I just having a son, I want to make sure that, when we talk about the stuff I'm doing at work, which is not that often, he's talking about Xbox mostly, but that I can speak about it confidently and know that, it will make him proud, if there are, opportunities for him to sort of witness things. So.
That's wonderful. Can you share with us and our audience what have been some of your biggest proud accomplishments, and then maybe the biggest lessons that you learned from your quote unquote failures?
Sure. When we sold the company to Blackhawk in 14, and then I joined the Blackhawk team, got to play lots of different roles, and that was a very rewarding time. Probably had the largest organization that I had direct, management of several hundred folks, and across lots of different departments, and we were going through lots of change there. We were acquiring companies all the time, and I was involved in all of those transactions. And I remember just all the change that was happening, and there were lots of people that were not comfortable, and myself included. I mean, you see, we're buying this other company. Well, that they do exactly what I do, and should I be concerned? And lots of people have those concerns. I remember that there was at least a year-long period there where I started to have these lunches. It wasn't my idea, somebody else's idea. Why don't we do these little brown bags, sit down and talk with, department heads, is how it started. But then it ended up being everybody in the company that worked in the buildings that I was visiting, or in the office I was at, started once a week, and then became 3 times a week, and it became every single day that I could. I'd sit down with 10, 15 people that sometimes they knew each other, sometimes they didn't. And we would just talk, what's going on. And that was the greatest, because I got a lot out of it. I got more insight into what's going on, what people are concerned with, what's heavy on their mind. Maybe we didn't communicate something well, or maybe it's a business opportunity, or it's a reprioritization opportunity. But listening, and not just listening, actually acting on things that I would learn in those sessions, and everybody communicating. It was just, I felt like we had a really strong, cohesive unit. And I was one of many, as opposed to, me just sitting in an office down at the end of the hall. And that was a sort of a culmination of learning and sort of how to apply those kinds of skills and networking and connecting, and now doing it at a different level. But I felt rewarded all the time leaving those meetings, and seeing people in the halls, and everybody, we all knew each other, and sort of for a big team that it hadn't happened in a while. I think that they all felt sort of left aside because there were all these other things going on in the company out in California, and we were in Dallas. So that was a great time. I always look back on that fondly. I want to try to replicate that one day. That camaraderie that we had. So
yeah.
But a failure. Now you asked me a failure. I don't. I think that back especially early on, I would leave positions for greener pastures, and leave things undone. And I've done that a few times. Always on good terms, and and always it is a step up, maybe more responsibility, more maybe a different role or something that I wanted to be able to experience. But I felt like sometimes I would leave things undone and leave people hanging, and that's definitely not a good feeling. In retrospect, you sort of in the midst of it, you think you're doing the right thing for you and your family, and you sort of you can rationalize anything. But I feel like there are a few cases where I wish I would have maybe stayed longer, or helped some people through some transitions that I knew were going to happen after I left. And so I'm very cognizant of that now, about not taking for granted other people's perspectives and the impacts to other people, what I'm doing. And now being, the head honcho at a new company, that's really important. I got lots of folks that are relying on me to make good decisions for them, not just me. So
yeah, it's amazing how people like yourself change lives, and we never know, some of the things that we said and we did in the past can be an extraordinary inspiration to someone, even years and years after, when we were able to engage with them, or to be a part of their life. What inspires you, Matthew? What motivates you, gets you up in the morning, and what are some of the things that you want to inspire other people with?
it's different things all the time. I think sometimes it's people. I meet people all the time that that have just an energy about them, or an enthusiasm, and I always try to tap into that if I can. Sometimes it's building things. I love building stuff and creating, and bringing things from sort of an idea to actually having people use it and get feedback. I mean, all that's I love that process. It's it's so real, as opposed to some jobs you could have where there's almost no reality to it. It's just numbers or something. But this is, I love creating things that you can bring to market. I think it sounds cliche, but my wife and my son inspire me. My wife is an acupuncturist, and she went back to school, after we had our son, and and she got this master's in Chinese medicine, and now she helps women with fertility problems. And I mean, she's making a real difference. She's really, she's helping create families, and it's that is so inspiring. And I try to find it's hard to find that level of meaning when you're doing gift cards, but I try to find, okay, what are we actually doing that is making a difference? Where is it making a difference? And then let's lean into that, because then you could get passionate about something like that. Because what she does is, she wakes up in the morning and she knows that she's, making a real difference in people's lives all the time. That's awesome. And my son is, he's coming into his own. We're having some real conversations now. I think that's definitely keeping me grounded, as well as, inspiring me to want to be a good dad, a good role model. So I get it all over the place. It's but I don't shy away from meeting new people and trying to learn new things, because I think there's always inspiration and places maybe that you'd otherwise walk right by. So
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So let's talk a little bit about the sale that you had in 2014, and all those lessons along the way, right? A lot of people, when they sell a company, or when they buy a company, or when they have anything that has to do with a substantial financial process, right? There's a lot of intimidation there, or maybe internal conversation, especially when you deal with millions of dollars. And so how did you handle this? Maybe there's some areas that were not familiar to you, And how did you handle that? What's the process for you?
It's it is intimidating. It's very intimidating, and I think that's why there's really good lawyers, and really good analysts, and depending on sort of the size of the transaction you're looking at. But you again, back to learning to rely on other people and trust other people that are really good at things. I could not have done any of these things without really strong group of folks that you trust. But I think that the like with most things, I tried to turn it into something that I could use later, because each of doing it with our own company into Blackhawk, which then set off. That was the beginning of Blackhawk buying some like 12 companies in 3 or 4 years, and I got to be involved, thankfully, in a lot of those activities, the diligence all the way through negotiation and execution, and then transitioning the business into Blackhawk proper. I got to experience all that, so see both sides of it, and I think all that experience is paying off. Trying to start something on our own again. Go out and raise some money, and with an eye toward again, some hopefully long term down the road. We'll see, but some sort of exit, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's
where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself with the company in 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think I say we because there's a couple other folks that were part of the other business, and we're all, whether they're directly involved or behind the scenes, we're all still working on it together. So we definitely see this as another sort of idea that we're going to build off of, and build some assets around, and hopefully in the next 3 to 5 years, we're able to grow it to the point where there's a path for somebody to bring us underneath them, or for us to grow it ourselves. But I think as long as we're growing it and building, I'm happy, and I know that could take a decade, and that's I'll be happy as long as we're continuing to churn out new stuff, and as I'm continuing to be excited about whatever it is we're building. But I don't put a timetable necessarily. I don't think any of us do on, well, it has to happen by X, because you'll be wrong, So
yeah,
we just got, as long as we're doing good stuff, building good product, then, good things will happen. So.
Yeah. So Matthew, what causes do you care about? And what are some of the things that you would like to leave a legacy for?
Well, my number one is my son. I just, I want him to be a good young man, a good dad, be contributing to society in a positive way. And I mean, I think he has such a big heart, and I think he does want to make an impact. So I think we're on the right path there. But I mean, my legacy, number one will be, whatever he's able to sort of grow into. I'll tell you right now, the with all the stuff that's going on with COVID and the small businesses that are struggling, there's a lot of interesting ways to contribute to different funds and help out the small businesses that are, 30, 40 years in owning a restaurant, generations, and it's all going away. There's some very sad stories, and restaurants, the background, I feel for folks like that. So I'm definitely trying to find ways to contribute in those particular areas if I can. I always think one day my wife and I will own a restaurant again, or a bar or something, some little corner thing, maybe on a beach somewhere. But there's livelihoods tied to those things, and it's not just the person that owns it that's losing it. It's all the staff and all the vendors and everybody. There's a whole ecosystem of people's livelihoods. So I would love to be able to continue to provide for for those kinds of groups. But right now, I think it's important to try to find ways to help where it's possible for the folks that are really struggling.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Matthew. So at the conclusion of every conversations like we have right now, I give our guest 1 minute, a couple minutes of open mic, where you can share anything you want. Maybe it's about something inspirational, maybe it's about your company, or something that could, empower other people, whatever it is that you want to share. And so please take some time and share with us what you would.
Well, I think that 2020 has been, an amazing year, and I'm going to choose the word amazing because I think it's shown light on what's important, and it's allowed opportunities to sort of to emerge. Our business is very it's very focused on interpersonal face-to-face activity, and now everything is remote, and so trying to find opportunities in that it's not easy, but I think we have. But I think that just overall having a willingness as a small team, having a willingness to continue to test and learn, and it's okay to fail. And it's pivot's a word that's overused, but it's, to me, it's more about just constantly turning the tanker. It's just pointing in one direction will never work. You constantly have to be navigating. So it's not a pivot as much as it is just sort of little tweaks, and having a culture that allows you to react to things like that. If you were prepared, then 2020 definitely tested that. It tested your capacity to do that. And so I'm proud of the fact that we were able to make it through the year in a way that we still learned. We didn't hit the numbers that we had set out, but we still got a lot of value out of what we were able to bring to market, and we're setting ourselves up for some positive activity next year. And the same for my wife and my son, and just to have that attitude of it's okay. We'll continue to ride, and not not just put up roadblocks and just give up. It's you got to keep going, but you can navigate these things if you have sort of the capacity that's not rigid. And so I think it's been an amazing year in that been able to sort of test those theories and test that operating model, if you will, and it seems to be working. So we're all still here. We're all relatively positive, and we're looking forward to 2021. So I mean, hopefully that helps.
Thank you. I'm so proud that this is the message you chose, and I'm so honored that you're the first guest in the new year, because this is exactly the message that I would want to give to our audience. It's I was seeing the other day people kind of very quick to kick 2020 under the curve, like, oh, thank goodness 2020 is done. And I was just thinking, like, how many lessons and hidden opportunities we had at 2020, and brought us together, maybe gave us an opportunity to reflect, and yeah, sure, it's been tough for a lot of people. A lot of business owners have gone through, and families and individuals and companies, right, have gone through all of those obstacles and up and down. But what is that given us? What opportunities and lessons and wins it's given us, either that we could see now or that we'd be able to see in the future. It's and so I welcome that, and I really am happy that you shared your insights. It's this is what uplifting actually means. That's the definition of that, right? So
I mean, what is adversity if not an opportunity to learn and be better? If you let it and it's easy to say that. It's cliche to say
Yeah.
and it's, but and it's taken, decades maybe for me to realize it.
Yeah.
But you eventually will end up in that place where you realize that, what's important, and being able to, take all the experiences, the good and the bad, and take them with you forward. And, then you're going to be better for that experience. But when you're in the middle of it, it's certainly not easy to see, and the calendar turns, you're right. Everybody's like, oh, it's over. No, it's not over. It's not over. First of all, it's not.
Right.
Secondly, why throw it away? I mean, there's probably some things that people would like to forget, and I understand that, but I'm talking about the other things. Let's take with us, what we were able to accomplish and how, and keep doing that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's really been an honor. Tell our audience where we can find you, where we can find your company, how can we support you?
Thanks, Adam. So CardNow.com, CardNow.com. That's the new business. We're selling for small businesses and moms and pops that stockpile gift cards for handing out at birthday parties or rewards or incentives at work. It's a brand new service that we just rolled out. I'd love people to check it out. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. I'm on LinkedIn, or you can just contact me directly, matt.frye@cardnow.com.
Wonderful. Matt, thank you so much. Have an amazing, amazing new year to you and your family and your community and your loved ones. Our audience, keep uplifting, keep raising the bar, and derive the best lessons from 2020, and let's start 2021 with a bang.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.